This week we'll wind up our read through the Gospel of Mark. By the end of the week, though, you'll notice that we won't make it through the entire Gospel. The daily lectionary only takes us this go-round through the story of the widow's mite. What we won't read at this point is the Passion narrative. The daily lectionary, though, will circle back to Mark later in the year, and then it will pick up the Passion narrative. What this go-round has highlighted is Jesus' public ministry. Today's daily lectionary reading will seem a bit out of place, for it is the story of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem on what we have come to call Palm Sunday. Sometimes, though, reading familiar stories at an unfamiliar time helps us see things in a new way. Let's see if we can make that happen today. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Monday, February 13th, 2023. All four Gospels tell this story in some fashion. That alone is remarkable. There aren't very many stories that all four Gospel writers tell. While there is a lot of overlap, especially among the Synoptic Gospels, the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there is much less overlap with the Gospel of John. But just because they all tell the story doesn't mean they all tell it the same way. So with that, here is Mark's version of events. When they were approaching Jerusalem, at Bethphage and Bethany near the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village ahead of you, and immediately as you enter it, you will find tied there a colt that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it. If anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' just say this, 'The Lord needs it, and will send it back here immediately.'" They went away and found a colt tied near a door outside in the street. As they were untying it, some of the bystanders said to them, "What are you doing untying the colt?" They told them what Jesus had said, and they allowed them to take it. Then they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it, and he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut in the fields. Then those who went ahead and those who followed were shouting, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our ancestor David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Then he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple, and when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Although it is easy to mash up the four gospel accounts of this story, Mark's account differs from the other accounts in a variety of ways. Mark presents the story with a degree of reserve not found in the other gospels. He only hints at what the other gospel writers announce plainly. Mark's account is full of hints and ambiguity, inviting us to ponder who this Jesus is as he rides into Jerusalem. We, of course, these days read it as an account of the Messiah riding triumphantly into Jerusalem to assume his rightful throne. But Mark doesn't quite take us there, not yet anyway. The narrative begins when Jesus has come up the road from Jericho, where he had healed a blind man. And though Mark doesn't say it, he implies that this takes place at the end of that same day. The majority of the story concerns the little detail of the procurement of a donkey on which Jesus would ride into the city. Knowledge of the Old Testament helps here. In the prophet Zechariah we read, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter Zion. Shout aloud, O daughter Jerusalem. Lo, your king comes to you. Triumphant and victorious is he, humble and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey." Christians have long associated the Palm Sunday story with this passage from Zechariah. It points us toward an understanding of Jesus as our King. But in Mark's careful hand, it is only a veiled reference, leaving us to draw this conclusion, a conclusion which we can only read back in light of the cross and the empty tomb. Here and now, there is a bit of sacred ambiguity, pointing us toward this conclusion without out and out announcing it. Jesus himself does not announce that he's the king, but the crowd, they announce it, even if they do not know yet fully what it means. Surely they do not yet see what will happen to Jesus in the days to come. Surely they expected him to assume his throne in real time, throwing out the Roman occupiers and reestablishing the throne of his ancestor David. They cannot even guess today what will happen to Jesus on Friday, much less the following Sunday, when in his resurrection he defeats not only the Roman army, but death itself. He is truly king, but not in the way they expect. Mark's whole gospel narrative drives to this goal, but before the resurrection, even the acclaim of the crowds on Palm Sunday do not match the full reality of what will happen to and through Jesus. So now, holy ambiguity, not to be fully resolved until Easter morning. Tomorrow, the cursed fig tree. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do, this day and in all the days ahead.